Jocelyn Doughton, Kiera Jones.
This meeting is being recorded.
And John Manival, who will be assisting me in delivering this presentation. So I'd like to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. Jocelyn?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jocelyn Doughton, and I am joining you at the tail end of my second week here at DHCD. I've served for 15 years in affordable housing, and I see a lot of familiar names present here. At DHCD, I'm serving as the senior underwriter, and so I will be the main point of contact for a lot of you during the application process and over the life of your project. So I look forward to connecting with you all.
And good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Manival. I'm a consultant with Oculus. I'm doing work with Prince George's County DHCD. My background includes a stint at the Maryland Department of Housing, as well as in nonprofit housing development. It's great to be here with all of you today. Thank you.
Will you unmute?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiera Jones. I am the administrative aide for the Department of Housing. I am the direct support person for Director Aspasia Zapolia and Deputy Director Tamika Galvin. Nice to be here with you this afternoon.
Thank you. Unfortunately, our department director, Aspasia Zapolia, she was unable to join us today, but she wanted me to extend her greetings to all of you. And it would be nice that during the presentation, if the people in the audience, if you could put your name and the organization you represent in the chat box, it would be helpful so we just get an idea of who's being represented here during this webinar. And then before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. Of course, during the presentation, please make sure your audio setting is on mute. And if you forget, Kiera's going to be in the background and she can shut it down. So, and then hold all questions until the end. We'll allow for a Q&A session at the end. Or if you'd like, you can submit your question in the chat box and we'll do our best to answer all of them today or get back to you with an email. So with that, we'll get started with our agenda, go over our agenda, which is the next slide. You can go to the next slide, Kiera, there. Get to the agenda. Yeah. So today's agenda is going to be limited to the NOFA itself. If you're interested in scheduling a meeting to discuss like specific project details, please reach out to me or Jocelyn, and we will work with you to get a virtual meeting on the calendar to include our director. Our email addresses are in the NOFA and they are included on this presentation, which we will provide a copy of the presentation to all of you. This afternoon, we're going to go over some background information, share our county executives' economic development platform as related to affordable housing production. We'll inform you of the county's resources, our funding considerations, and our priorities, as well as the submission requirements and schedule for this particular NOFA. Additionally, we'll speak to new hiring requirements that were recently enacted by our county council. And throughout the presentation, we will highlight some of our recent affordable housing developments, of which we are extremely proud of. So just to give you a little bit of background, this is actually only our second annual NOFA, but as our funding resources increase and our production goals increase, this annual NOFA is a critical tool in being able to manage our pipeline and project our resources per fiscal year. So last year's NOFA yielded 14 applications that came in which we were able to provide letters of support for 8 of those projects. But more importantly, I just wanted to share with the audience here that the progress that the county has made in the last 4 years under the Angela Alsobrooks administration. The department, trust me, we've been very busy. We have supported the new construction of a little over 2,100 units of affordable housing. They're in different stages of the development process, so it equates to about 506 units that we recently completed. And then there's another 1,155 units under construction currently. And then we have an additional 458 units that will begin construction over the next 12 months. This represents about 15 different projects. And it does not include the department's success in preserving over 1,200 units of existing naturally occurring affordable housing through our right of first refusal program, because those units are now being counted as new restricted housing units towards our production goals. And then for those of you that responded to the 2021 NOFA, you'll note a few changes from last year. The county has increased its maximum award. We've added a new funding source pending HUD's approval. There's been a cap applied to our property tax deferrals. We've added an additional funding priority. We've introduced new hiring goals and added a fee for county legal representation. And we will cover these topics later on in the presentation. But what's highlighted here on this slide is a picture of a recently completed senior affordable housing development project known as the Woodlands at Reed Temple. It's located in Glendale. It provided 252 units of quality affordable housing for our seniors. The county supported this development with subordinate debt financing from our Home Investment Partnership Program, as well as a pilot. It really is, it's a beautiful property. It has high quality finishes and amenities. It's just really pretty if you've been by there to see it. Next slide. So you heard me mention affordable housing production goals. So in the summer of 2021, our county executive announced her economic development platform. As part of this platform, she announced the county's affordable housing production goals. By year 2030, the county is striving to support the production of 26,000 new residential units, of which 75% or 19,500 will be restricted as affordable to individuals and families earning 120% or less of the area median income. While the statistics I just reported earlier in the previous slide are exciting and promising, we still have a long way to go. And we are committed to work with our affordable housing partners and stakeholders to achieve this accomplishment. So what resources do we have to achieve this accomplishment? So we have subordinate debt gap financing from the county's federal Home Investment Partnership Program. And we also have local housing investment trust fund dollars. John's going to talk to you a little bit later regarding a new source of funding as a result of the federal government's allocation of additional home funds as part of the COVID relief money. And he'll tell you about that in a couple slides. In this fiscal year, the county's home budget dedicated to multifamily rental housing production, along with the program income that the home program earns, our budget's approximately $3 million, while the Housing Investment Trust Fund's fiscal year budget is approximately $20 million. So that's our financial resources. But as I had mentioned earlier, we also will consider requests for payment in lieu of taxes, which we refer to as a pilot. This results in a negotiated payment towards the county real property tax. But it should be noted that all the other agency taxes that you see listed on that tax bill, they still must be paid in full. The county can only provide relief on the county's portion of the tax bill. And you know, we do understand when we're looking at producing affordable housing, we do understand the importance of a pilot to the developers. We understand it reduces operating costs, which will support additional debt to the development, and ultimately it'll keep rents affordable. So pilots are evaluated on a project by project basis, and it must meet the but-for concept. So I'll talk about the cap a little bit later on the pilots. So also on this slide is another project which is currently under construction. It's known as the Woodyard Station development in Clinton. And when this project is complete, it will provide 158 units of quality affordable housing for families and seniors. So what are our funding considerations? This NOFA is seeking to support the acquisition, new construction, and rehabilitation of multifamily affordable housing. This year, we have increased our maximum support by $500,000. So we moved the maximum loan amount from $2 million to $2.5 million. Our loans are, cash flow loans and subordinate to your senior lenders. We will be prioritizing our support to those projects seeking 9% tax credits from CDA's 2023 round. However, we welcome 4% deals. So this is not just for 9% deals. 4% deals are certainly being considered as well. And as mentioned earlier about these pilots, the NOFA announces a new cap on the deferred amount per affordable unit. The department has instituted a practice to limit our pilot requests to a deferral of up to $600 per affordable unit per year. So for example, if it's determined that the annual taxes per unit is $1,000 per unit, we could lower that to $400 by deferring $600. So that's what I'm meaning by the deferred amount should not exceed $600 per unit. And that's per affordable unit, because if there's a mixed income project, we only apply pilots to the affordable units, not to the market rate units. And we're doing this because, due to the volume of projects we want to support in our past pilot history, it's been determined that this is a good average amount that will allow the county to provide support amongst several projects within each fiscal year. So all NOFA responses that are requesting a pilot must include a pilot analysis. The pilot analysis workbook is included as a PDF file on the department's website. But if you would like this available in an Excel document, just reach out to me or Jocelyn and we'll get that over to you. And as stated on the slide, the source of funding, be it home or trust fund, will be determined by the county based on our funding availability. So funding priorities. The county is very committed to supporting affordable housing development that's located within transit-oriented development, TOD areas, which such as like the Purple Line or the Blue Line corridors, as well as other MDOT designated TODs. People responding to this NOFA should make themselves aware of the housing priorities that are in the guidance that's provided in the Prince George's County 2035 Adopted General Plan. The link to this plan is also in the NOFA. And in addition to prioritizing mixed use, mixed income affordable housing that conforms to sustainable energy efficient design, we've added an additional priority, which is to maximize the availability of units available to families at or below 50% of the AMI. So that was the new priority that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And so, which project is this? I gotta look at this one. This is the Homes at Oxon Hill project, which is a mixed income senior project over in Oxon Hill. It's currently under construction. It's actually our housing authority is a partner in this deal, along with Homes for America. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to John so he can discuss the new future allocation of the home ARP funds that I mentioned, and its attended, its uses, as well as the local hiring requirements that were recently enacted by Council Bill 51. So John?
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Pam. Kiara, you can go to the next slide, please. As Pam mentioned, the county has received an allocation, a preliminary allocation of additional federal resources that it's never received before. These funds are being provided under the auspices of the Federal Home Program, which the county has administered for many years. And it's an additional allocation to the home program under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, whereby HUD has allocated with congressional approval, I think a total of $5 billion nationwide through the home program. And the county's preliminary allocation of home ARP funds is, as indicated on this slide, just over $7.5 million, which is in excess of their normal annual allocation. So it's a significant boost to resources available to the county. This is a special home allocation, a one-time allocation, and Congress's approval of the allocation of additional funding was contingent on it being used to target homeless populations in conjunction with the county's continuum of care. So that means it has a tighter set of requirements about what sort of project or projects it can support than normal home funding. So the county is going to have to work strategically with its development partners in allocating these funds. I'm going to drop into the chat a link to the actual plan that the county has submitted to HUD. I want to emphasize that the plan has been submitted to HUD. HUD still needs to approve that plan. We're optimistic that the county will receive HUD's approval shortly, but that approval is not yet in hand. The county's concept at this point, however, is to the degree that approval is received sometime soon while you're either working on responses to the NOFA or even possibly midstream while the county's reviewing applications, that it may elect to amend the NOFA to allow it to deploy some or all of this $7.5 million under the terms of the NOFA. And you'll see that described in the NOFA document that the county may choose to make an amendment to this NOFA. I think it's probably about a 50-50 chance that HUD will act quickly enough so the county can use this NOFA round as a way to deploy some of the home ARP funds. What you'll see in the table and what is an important takeaway about the county's home ARP plan is that it's been targeted initially for 3 primary uses of funds: supportive services, acquisition and development of non-congregate shelters, and development of affordable rental housing. It's really that third category that's most applicable to the NOFA we're talking about today. And in that category, as you'll see in the home ARP plan, the county's concept is to deploy those funds to enable owners and developers of affordable rental housing to set aside units within a larger development where those set aside units will be targeted for long-term availability to homeless households. How will the county do that? Well, as you'll see in the home ARP plan, the county intends to deeply subsidize the cost of construction and development of the units that are set aside for the homeless, as well as set aside funding for reserves for replacement to cover the incremental operating cost associated with those units, so that the units can be rented to households at 10 to 20% of area median income, which is a very, very low income that is been proven as an approach that works to deliver units to the homeless and to extremely vulnerable populations without the need for project-based rental assistance. That's not to say the county doesn't encourage project-based rental assistance to be integrated into the projects it supports, but the concept here is to deliver long-term permanent supportive housing for the homeless without the need for rental assistance. And further, the concept is to integrate those units into larger developments. So the county is not intending to use the affordable rental housing funding line item you see here to build developments that are 100% for homeless households. Rather, the thinking is somebody wants to develop a 50-unit affordable rental housing development that they can set aside 4, maybe 5 of the units to serve home ARP clients or homeless households, so that they're integrated into a larger mixed income community. And in addition, by having a line item in home ARP for supportive services, the county's thinking is it'll be able to retain the services of third-party comprehensive case management services and deliver wraparound services to the residents in those units to help them live a stable life and be contributing members to the larger community. So between the supportive services line item for home ARP and the affordable rental housing line item, the county's hoping it can leverage the creation of units for the homeless integrated into its normal pipeline of affordable rental deals. This is not a new concept. This is a concept that's being borrowed from the state of Maryland over the last 10 years or so, has done similar things through different programs. Its Weinberg program, its Section 811 program, et cetera. And the county is looking to kind of amplify that approach, but just in county assisted projects. So again, the county's waiting for approval of the home ARP plan from HUD. Optimistic that we'll receive that and be able to deploy some of these funds through home ARP through this NOFA. One other item on the table there is non-congregate shelter. That's a use of funds that will be deployed through a separate NOFA by the county. Non-congregate shelter is a very sort of different approach than what we're talking about today with these funds for affordable rental housing. So that's the update on home ARP and how it interfaces with this NOFA round. Kiara, could you move on to the next slide? The other thing I want to make sure we cover today is a very new requirement in Prince George's County. Last month, County Council passed Council Bill 51-2022. It's a diversity and equity policy for publicly subsidized development projects, and it's encapsulated into the county code, as you'll see here. There is information about this in the NOFA, but we wanted to sort of provide some highlights to it for those of you who are interested in applying so that you can appropriately plan for your development. And I'll also drop into the chat a link to the County Council website where you can actually read the entire bill for yourself, as well as accompanying reports that were associated with it. As I said, this is a brand new piece of legislation at the county, so the implementation of it is just beginning. And the anticipation is that in the months ahead, more detail will be able to be provided about how to operationalize the requirements of Council Bill 51-22. But let's kind of summarize them as they currently stand. What's important for you to think about as you're planning your project and as you read and look into Council Bill 51-2022 is that DHCD, and this is indicated in the NOFA, wants you to assume that your development will trigger the requirements of this bill for the $5 million to $10 million public subsidy range. There's a number of different buckets set up in this bill. We want you to be thinking about the $5 to $10 million range requirements. And those are the requirements that are detailed in the NOFA and that are summarized here on this slide. The first requirement is that at least 30% of the development costs for construction will need to be paid to county-based small businesses or locally owned and operated businesses, including at least 20% of the design costs. The second requirement is you must make best efforts to achieve at least 25% of the development costs for construction be paid to county-based minority business enterprises. The third is the project prime or general contractor team shall include one or more businesses that are county-based minority business enterprises or locally owned and operated businesses. And the final requirement is for the construction element, at least 25% of the total work hours in the project shall be worked by county residents, including at least 20% of the total work hours of workers in the specialty trades, defined as specialty trade contractors. I really encourage all of you to pull the legislation yourself, start reading it, thinking about how it affects your approach to developments, start sketching out the kind of questions you may have so that as the county implements this new law, it can synchronize that and work with you going forward. The timing for the NOFA, with the deadlines associated with it, it seems unlikely to me that the program will be completely baked and ready for answer every single question you have, but the county will certainly make its best efforts to give you good guidance as you put together your proposal. In preparing your proposal, you are required to certify that you will comply with the requirements of CB 51-2022. That is incorporated into the certification section of the NOFA. That's what you have to do for the response. You want to figure out and make estimates of how these requirements impact your budget so that you can submit an accurate budget that you're comfortable with moving forward. And again, the county will do its best to provide you good guidance as you work through your responses and prepare your NOFA response. So we encourage you to stay in touch with the county, reach out with general questions, and we'll respond to the best of our ability. It's important also to note that these requirements do not trump or eliminate the requirements of Section 3, which is a federal requirement associated with local hiring. Many of you should be aware of that already, and that is triggered by home funds in any project. And since the county gets to decide what projects get home and which get HITF, you should be thinking about Section 3 as a potential requirement for your project as well. Again, I put a link in the chat to the council website, which has more information about CB 51-2022. There's also lots of good information in the NOFA about these requirements, and the county's available for questions as you work on your responses. Next slide, please. And I think at this point, I'm gonna hand it over to Jocelyn to take us the rest of the way and then be available for questions.
All right, good afternoon again, everybody. Let's talk about submission requirements and your response to this NOFA. So on the screen, you'll see a list of all of the documents that we are requesting in order for your funding application to be considered. For our first-time applicants, I encourage you to dig into these documents as soon as possible. We're not asking for anything particularly heavy if you have a reasonably developed project, but as you can see, there are quite a lot of documents we're requesting. So if you're unfamiliar, it would be a good thing to familiarize yourself with the information as soon as you can. For those who have applied for tax credits in the past or directly to the county for multifamily projects, you shouldn't see a whole lot new here besides the changes that were discussed earlier. As you'll see, the bulk of the submission are CDA documents. So we want to see the complete 202 filled out in Excel, as well as the first 5 or so exhibits of CDA's multifamily rental financing application. Of course, we also want to see your self-scoring table. As a reminder, we are prioritizing applicants who are applying for 9% tax credits. So that self-scoring table is going to help us evaluate your response. In addition to CDA documents, there is also a supplemental application from the county. If you need a Word version of the application, please let me know. And as Pam discussed earlier, if you are applying for a pilot, there's additional information that we will need. And so that is available as an Excel document as well. You will need to reach out to myself for the Excel version, as PDFs are the only ones uploaded to the website at this time. So once you have all of your documents together, you're going to email PG NOFA submission to request a link to upload your application. If you responded to last year's NOFA, the process will be fairly similar to that. You don't have to wait until you have a complete application. You can get your link and upload your documents as you have them ready. I would just ask that you please clearly label all of your documents and make sure that by the due date, you have all of your final versions in the document. So, excuse me, in the folder. So your team as well as DHCD will have access to the folder, but DHCD will probably not delve into the folder or look at your documentation until the due date. So let's talk about the due date. So moving forward are the schedule. So if we can go to the next slide. The NOFA was published last Friday. We are all participating right now in the pre-proposal conference. You're going to have about 2 months to put your application together, and then we'll take about 2 months to review the responses and issue award notifications. So this schedule is based on the anticipated release of CDA's 2023 competitive funding round. We don't really know when that will happen. So the due dates that we have here are subject to change at DHCD's discretion and likely dependent on CDA's schedule. So in the meanwhile, if you're interested in scheduling a project-specific conference with DHCD staff, or if you have questions that you want to run by us about the NOFA or about your project, you can get in touch with Pam or myself to schedule that appointment. We do ask that before you reach out to schedule your appointment, please go through the NOFA and just ensure that none of your questions have been answered either in the document or through this presentation. So with that being said, as mentioned earlier, we've had a lot of successes over the last several years. And so we just wanted to highlight a couple of projects that were completed this year. Well, what you're looking at now is Gateway at Peerless, which is a 62-unit mixed income development in Upper Marlboro. It was completed this year by Conifer and the Episcopal Housing Corporation. The 62 units are 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments, and they are serving 30%, 40%, and 50% income households, as well as some market rate units as well. And really what we wanted to highlight beyond the wonderful projects that are coming to fruition in Prince George's County is the capital stack that these projects require. So as you'll see for this particular project, the county contributed $1.5 million in county funds to the project. But as you see, that's just a mere drop in the bucket of this $28 million project. So particularly for our new applicants, it's important to just kind of take a look at this and understand the various resources that are really required and the team that's needed to bring these projects to completion. Next slide, please. The Lewis is another wonderful project that recently finished this year. It's located in Suitland and was developed by Mission First. the Lab Group and Henson Development Company. This is a large development, 137 units of new construction with primarily 1 and 2 bedrooms. And it's serving 50, 60, and 80% households, as well as market rate as well. And again, you see a substantial capital stack with Prince George's County's 1.5 million contribution, one of actually the smaller funding sources in the deal. So this is a lovely project that we encourage you all to go take a look at if you are not familiar with it as well. Lastly, we've talked about a couple of different resources, and these links are in the NOFA. We can drop them in the chat as well. But the majority of your documents for your application are going to be found on CDA's website. And so you can go directly through the link, or you can search for the state's website to find those documents and exhibits in question. And please contact us if you need Word and Excel versions of county-specific documents. Otherwise, our contact information is listed on this slide, and we will open it up now for questions, and we'll also scroll through the chat to see if there's any there. I know that there was a question about the recording. This recording, will it be disseminated as well as this presentation? And I believe what we're going to do in both instances is, and please somebody correct me if I'm mistaken, but for both resources will be posted to the website that you all can reference at your leisure. So there will not be an additional email sent, but just look forward to the website to access.
And thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, John. One thing I would want to add to something that Jocelyn had mentioned about sending an email to get a link for a folder set up for your organization. Please note, we're only going to be able to respond to those emails during normal business hours. So if you send it on a Saturday, you probably will not get a response until Monday. So just wanted to make that notation, because I know last year people started to think that maybe the link wasn't working, but we will respond. So at this time, as Jocelyn said, we can open it up to questions. And if you want to take yourself off mute and ask your question, please do. Or if you want to put it in the chat, we're trying to keep an eye in the chat box. So
it looks like there is one question in the chat while others are working to unmute themselves. Can you share more information about the concept mentioned for pilot requests?
I think that you're talking about the but-for concept.
Oh,
and
yes.
I think that's what it meant. So when you are presenting your pro forma and your project financials and the budget, the pilot, when you're requesting a pilot, your numbers have to say, but for this pilot, this project wouldn't work. So it's just kind of a justification that your numbers need to prove that this pilot is really needed, but for it not be for the pilot, your project would not be feasible. So I hope that answers the question.
It looks like Tom Himmler has a question.
Hi, how are you? Regarding the home art funded projects that John mentioned, given that the targeted AMI is 10 to 20%, are those units still subject to the same $600 cap?
The $600 cap on
for a pilot. If a developer comes in for the pilot and sets aside, like in your example, 4 or 5 units, that they're going to be at 10 to 20%.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. They would be considered affordable units, and affordable units are eligible to request pilot relief.
I think Tom, though, what you're asking is it possible to get more deferred than the 600 because
Right.
they're so
They're so
incredibly
low.
affordable?
Right.
Once we have our home art plan approved and we issue an addendum to this NOFA, I think we'll have more information to that. For right now, I would say they are subject to the cap, but we will consider going deeper, but I don't really have an exact answer for that, but we will make it clear in the addendum when we publish it.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
I have a question.
Yes,
The only income I have is Social Security. Will that still be available for a source of income to get an apartment?
Yeah, I'll answer that. The answer to that is yes. That is an eligible source of income. And actually with the home ARP units, that 10 to 20% area median income target is fairly consistent with SSDI income levels. So the answer to that is yes.
Thank you.
I have a question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, great, thank you. I am disabled as well, and my son is my caregiver. And my question to you would be, how do I actually get the ball rolling to meet the deadline due date for the application? How do I get the initial ball rolling? Is there someone available that can assist me in filling out the steps along the way?
Is this specifically for a affordable unit?
Yes, it would be for an affordable unit for myself and my son, who's my caregiver. I'm disabled.
Okay, Maria, are you able to drop your contact information in the chat box or send an email to me directly and we can follow up?
Sure, is this Pam I'm speaking with?
This is Jocelyn.
Hi, I have a question. Yeah, I have a question. Hi.
Just 1 second, please.
Excuse me.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't think can we allow the first person to finish their question? I think her name's Maria.
Maria, if you're able to just send me an email, and we may have your, I'm sure actually we have your contact information. We can follow up with you directly, okay? Okay. There is a couple questions in the chat box. Are all of the CDA exhibits in the supplier diversity and equity plan required for projects only applying for pilots in this round? I'm going to say yes, but I will defer to Pam.
Yeah, I would say yes. There may be a few exhibits that we wouldn't need if it was a pilot request only, but because in order to get a pilot, you have to understand that the law requires that there also be a federal, state, or local source of financing that limits the affordability of those units. So more than likely you would be applying for CDA anyway. So even if you didn't want our subsidy from the home program or the trust fund. So the answer is actually yes.
Okay, so once again, so that I'm clear, part of my disability, I'm to email Jocelyn and who else?
So if you are looking for direct affordable housing, send me an email and I can connect you with one of our local nonprofits that are able to directly assist you.
Your name, because you're not coming up.
Oh, it's Jocelyn.
Okay, now I see you. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Absolutely.
Hi, I have a question, please. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Bertin. I have a limitation for English. That means I don't understand everything you are talking about. Can I please have someone to explain to me and help me to apply I'll be trying to have houses. I'm a single mother with no income. I'm not able to have a house. I don't have a contact with someone who can explain to me what to do the way I can understand.
Yes, so I would say for everybody that has a specific question about their personal situation, whether it's about a project you're interested in developing, or whether it's about locating affordable housing, if you would send me an email. Unfortunately, I don't have a direct phone number at this time, but if you send me an email, I'm happy to talk to you directly and or coordinate you with resources that would best serve you, okay? So are you able to email me?
I will have an email, please.
Are you seeking my email?
Yes, please.
My email is JD.
Can you put on the chat so we can?
Oh, that is so smart. Yes, I will put it in the chat. While I'm putting it in the chat, there is a question. Pam, would you discuss evaluation criteria for awarding the proposals?
Thank you so much.
Well, a lot of
Absolutely.
Sure. The evaluation criteria, a lot of it's going to be based upon your self-scoring that you're going to do. And then we are going to take that self-scoring sheet and review it with our proposal analysis group. And we will use the same criteria in the self-scoring to score your application. I hope that answers your question.
So I guess my question would be, in your self-scoring, is this related to the beacon scores and all of that?
I'm not familiar with what a beacon score is. I'm sorry. And
okay.
You know, and just for the audience's sake, this application, this notice of funding availability, it really is geared as an application for affordable housing developers to apply for financing to support the development of the new construction project. This application process that we're speaking of today doesn't deal with individual applicants applying for affordable housing. And I think what Jocelyn was saying is she would be happy to, if you email her, she will email you back with some resources and information that could help you if that's what you're searching is for an individual unit to occupy.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jocelyn and Pam, there was also a question about the home ARP program, and I'll drop in the chat my contact info for people who have technical questions about home ARP.
Great, thanks, John. So it's getting kind of quiet. So we're going to stick around. We'll hang on to the. We'll stay here in the webinar till 3 o'clock. And so if anybody has some question or drops a chat, we're keeping our eye out. But if you decide to drop off, I just want to say thank you for taking the time today and joining us. And we look forward to receiving some good, robust applications. And definitely, if you have questions as you're going through the NOFA, actually all of us are available. So if you send us an email, we will definitely get back in touch with you.
So good afternoon. I have a question. I'm working with a company called Innovative Building Technologies that builds essentially panelized housing. And we're launching in North Carolina a development that shows how this particular form of housing can be built by an unskilled workforce in about 3 days. At least the exterior and the house themselves can be completed in about 2 to 3 months. Wanted to create a pilot to show the economies of scale in building this type of housing. And I wondered if the pilot is appropriate for perhaps displaying this in Prince George's County, where I happen to live. Anyone?
I'm going
What
to try to
scale,
answer this.
yeah, what
Yeah,
scale
go
of
ahead.
development are you talking about? How many units, and would it be rental or for sale?
We'd like to do this for sale. I mean, the houses themselves, we just built one, well, there've been 75 around the country. But for instance, the one we just built in Burt, Michigan was 180 all in. And what we were looking to do is innovate in not only the reduced construction costs, but in financing for, I would say 50 to 80% AMI. Also, we have smaller units that can be constructed for a homeless population. The scale would be, I would say 15 to 20 houses. And they can be, the size, the nature of them can be, will, depend on what the small area plan or the needs assessment shows for the county.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this one to Jocelyn for you to reach out to her directly.
Okay.
15 to 20 units is a really tough size to make work as a tax credit transaction, which is really the target of a lot of the funding being talked about here in this NOFA. But the county does have other financing programs that could conceivably support something like this. There's also programs that the state of Maryland has available that often are deployed in Prince George's County that could be supplemented. So I would encourage you to follow up with Jocelyn to talk about your individual project and concept specifically outside the confines of this NOFA.
Okay, thank you.
Someone asked if there was a minimum score that we are looking for. And I would venture to say there's not a minimum, well, maybe I shouldn't answer.
No, that's
On week
fair.
number 2.
Yeah, it's not a minimum score, but we are looking at the application package to at least meet the minimum threshold, whereas all of the documents that we are requesting are there. Because if it's an incomplete package, then it's going to get disqualified because we will not be able to review it if it's incomplete.
Okay, thank you for that. So
Sure.
I guess maybe the question wasn't as clear as I could have been. So does that mean that anyone whose documents are complete will automatically get some type of award?
No, it means that it'll get reviewed and we'll be comparing and ranking. We'll be ranking them against each other. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, so the question then becomes, hypothetically, let's say that there's 40 applicants that are all complete, all compliant. Will it be 10 of those that split the pot, 3 of those, or is there a certain cutoff?
No, well, remember, there's a self-scoring sheet that you're going to complete, and then we're going to follow up. Now, some of those self-scoring sheets are going to score higher than others. So that will be one way that we rank them. And I don't know that I can't answer, will we do 3? Will we fund 10? I don't know yet. It would, we need to see what comes in, what meets priorities that are listed, and we'll go from there. But your self-scoring sheet is important. If you strive to obtain the highest score in each category of the self-scoring, you should have a really good application.
Okay, so there's no minimum numbers. No, like you don't have to get 90% on the scoring sheet or 85%. There's no threshold.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, but then also remind yourself, once you receive this PowerPoint, refresh yourself with the priorities that were stated earlier. So best case scenario, if we are in a situation where we're just flooded with all of these amazing projects, more projects than we have funding for, that's when we really go through the list of priorities and say, well, which one is closest to a TOD? Which one, has the most sustainable design? Sort of checking down those lists there. That's going to help us separate the exceptional projects from the great projects.
Okay, great. That's helpful, because I advise clients in their proposals, and so I just wanted to know how I should advise them. So thank you.
I know there's a lot of interest and questions on when and how soon we'll be able to share the PowerPoint and the recording. We will get it posted to the website just as soon as we can. Unfortunately, don't know when exactly that will be. I'm doubtful that it will be today, but hopefully it will be early next week.
Yep.
You all are so polite to hang around and sit with us.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we did say that we would run the webinar till 3:30, but if there's no other questions, we can all get back 30 minutes of our time. So, so I think we'll hang on for Jocelyn, John, Kiera, maybe hang on for about 5 more minutes and see if there's some additional questions, and then I think we'll say our goodbyes. But remember, we are all available to answer questions throughout the process. I think you will find all of us very attentive and very responsive. So if you have any questions, just shoot us an email and we will definitely get back to you.
Thank you, panel, for your time. Happy holidays to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you all.
I agree that this has been great information, and thank you all so very much. I probably will be reaching out to you in reference to a couple of municipalities within the district that I represent, trying to get some of these fundings for particularly elderly rental units. You all have been a great presentation. Thank you so very much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you so much. So John, Jocelyn, Kiera, it's 3:05. Seems like the questions have subsided. So I think it's safe that we can go ahead and end the webinar, and we'll just wait to receive emails, questions, etc. So
Alrighty.
for any of you that are still hanging on, have a good evening, happy holidays, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.